broadcasting live from an undisclosed location in the universe. Welcome to Iggy Garcia Live, the show where metaphysics, holistic living, motivation, and inspiration come together to empower your mind, body, and soul. We will dive deep into the realms of metaphysical wisdom, exploring the fascinating connections between mind and matter. Get ready to ignite your inner spark and embrace a journey of self-discovery.
Okay, we're live
So,
here.
sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride.
Well, welcome to the show. Iggy Garcia Live here, episode 209. My guest is SadaNah Sigh. He'll be on here in a minute when I'm able to get him to show up here on the screen. But we're going to get started either way, because this is what we do. Let me see if he sent me a message or anything. He may have sent me a message. He said he'll be on soon. Okay, guys, hopefully you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. Just give me a little thumbs up if you can hear me. I believe that we're good. I can see the audio is all good. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off like we always start off our shows. We're going to give thanks and tribute to our ancestors, those who come before us. We're going to light a candle and just raise this candle, giving thanks to our ancestors and giving them acknowledgement for all that they do for us. Behind the scenes, we give thanks to Great Spirit, we give thanks to Great Mother, the Earth Mother, the Pachamama. We give thanks to all that. We ask that, we guide us today in the full moon that we are participating in, and that our energies and our love and our connections with the world is always cohesive in creating those paradigm shifts and also bringing peace and joy to the world. And so I light this candle and I give thanks to my ancestors for that. At the same time, we also light the sage, prepare us for this journey that we're going to go on here. Get that going. Just as we set the intentions, we clear the energy, cleanse us and clear us. Use a ceremonial sage where we're going to be going into ceremony here, sharing our feelings, our emotions, and all the things that are good. It's good to be here. So I hope you all are doing well. I hope you're all doing good. And today our guest is SadaNah Sigh. He's a good friend of mine. I knew him when he wasn't SadaNah Sigh. I knew him before that. So when he pops in, we'll bring him on. Until then, we'll just talk a little bit about, where our journeys have been taking, all of us. I've been on a new journey of, trying to get my body back into the place of, connection and harmony with my mind, spirit, and soul. Bring all those aspects together and bring them together and lock them in and be able to do what I need to do to feel better. So I went on this unexpected, unexpected idea, or I don't even know how to approach it, because it wasn't something that I was really thinking about. I just saw the ads for this mushroom coffee, and I was just like, I wonder what would happen if I tried that. I've tried a lot of things, and either I'm either disappointed because of the lack of commitment on my part, or just the lack of, on the product, whatever. But I know it's a combination of the two. I have to be able to do the work and do the action and create that space. And so that's why I'm open to the possibilities of all the things that I do with that. And so I've started like 4 days ago, and I'm just trying to see where it takes me and see if all the things that it talks about, helping your body and connecting you and grounding you, if that all is legit or not. Sometimes, you see these products and you're not sure if any of it really works, if any of it is really is it really doing what it says it's supposed to do? Of course, results vary, right? Results vary depending on people and, you know, the things that they how they ingest it and how the body responds to it. You know, all that stuff's super important. And so here we are. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to be pretty stoked about it and just kind of just ride this wave of, you know, of whatever's supposed to be. And so I'm pretty excited about the journey. So anyhow, I'm just checking here and make sure I didn't miss him or something, but I think he's good. He'll be on when he's on. But so, you know, yeah, you have to take care of your body because you know what? No one's going to take care of it for you. So it's one of those things that I've always done something or tried. I remember I had 30 days of healing, you know, for in doing and exercising. I did that. I have 40 days of just eating vegetarian lifestyle, you know, just see what it was like. And, you know, I was surprised about the things that I thought were vegetarian and then they weren't vegetarian. That was really surprising to me. That was one of the things that really it got me a little bit, that it wasn't, you know, necessarily, you know, that way. But regardless, you know, it is what it is. And you do the best you can and you try to stay in that space and that energy to be able to create, you know, what you're going to create. And, you know, and of course, I'm not going to sit here and just not promote my stuff because this is my show and I promote my stuff on my show. So those of you who have not seen my book yet, this is The Shaman's Path for Beginners. This is a book that I wrote. This is a book that I think you will really thoroughly enjoy. There's a lot of amazing stuff. There's me as a little kid with my dad, you know, so there's a lot of people in here who helped me through this journey and through, you know, becoming the version of myself that I am today. There is a second book to this book coming out. I'm working on it right now. It's taking me a little bit longer, but I want to do it right. I just don't want to put out stuff just to put them out. That's too easy. Anybody can do that. But in the meantime, if you don't want to read a book and you want to kind of have a good time, just kind of chill and relax and get this book. Shaman's Coloring Book. The Shaman's Coloring Book is really fun. So you have all these different pictures in here that you can paint or draw, you know, doesn't matter. Watercolor, whatever you're called to. Pencil, you know, Machu Picchu. So the cool thing about this book, it's big compared to the other book. Look, see, they're the sizes. See, difference in size. One's smaller, one's bigger. So this one's jam-packed with stuff that you can write. I also have my drum book. I don't see it on my desk here. I may have sold out on all those books. Those books are doing really well. Drum circles made easy for everybody. But yeah, you can find my books on Amazon. You know, that's the best place to go source them out. Just put in your shopping cart, share it with a friend, whatever you're called to do, just do that. And just enjoy those things, enjoy those books. Those books, it takes time to make a book. You know, I mean, when I was studying to learn how to do books, I was really surprised on the effort and how the intricacies that go into that to actually write a book and the things that you need to do to write a book. But once you get it, once you figure out the system, you know, the road, the path of doing that, it's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. If you need help with it, I can coach you. You know, I also will have a little webinar about how to write your first book. If that interests you, if that's something that you're interested in, let me know. You know, just put in the comments, you know, Iggy, I'm interested, or send me a message. That class probably won't show up until like the fall when it starts getting a little bit more. Like it cools down a little bit from the summer. Right now, we're all going through spring, summer, and fall very fast and very quick, and I'm pretty excited about that. So we are just waiting for our guest. He'll come on when he's ready, when he's done what he's doing with, and you know, we'll move along in that direction. Till then, we just keep going. So Mother's Day was amazing. I had a great time. You know, I was hanging out with my wife, my mother-in-law, my friend Mary, my friend Anthony. We went to breakfast. We hung out. We just chilled out and did what we do. You know, it was just simple. You know, nothing wild, nothing crazy. Then Mary and all of us, we all went, and Susie and Anthony and Mary, my mother-in-law's named Mary too. we all went to not Elm Creek, Atrum. We went into the over there on down by the river. It was fun. Antrim, it's called Antrim Park. I don't know if you've ever heard of Antrim. I think it's just Antrim, but some people say Atrum, but I say Antrim. But yeah, we were there and we had fun, and it was really hot. Like it was a lot hotter than it really looked. And I was getting like red, like my face was getting red, and I was like, I gotta lay down. I gotta go under the tree. So I went under the tree, took a little nap, and I was pretty excited about it, and it was pretty fun, and I enjoyed it. So, anyways, it was a good time, and I really it was nice to just do something different, and just I spent a lot of energy on Saturday drumming, because that takes out of you a little bit, but also regenerates you. So it's kind of like that shift. You have to take the old energy that's inside of you. It's like changing the oil in your car, right? You just kind of move that energy out that no longer serves you, recycle it up to the universe, and bring it back, and then here we are. And so I was pretty much recycling that energy and just feeling the love, and and then I got to a point where it just was too hot, and I just said I have to go, I have to leave, I have to get out of here. And I think that's something sometimes we don't do as humans, is we don't do the things that we're supposed to do sometimes, and tell people, hey, you know what, I've had enough, and that's too much. And regardless, here we are. And then we got home and we had a little cookout, just chilled at home, made some steaks, made some fish, mashed potatoes, and we enjoyed it. We had a good time. It was well worth it. It was a really nice day. My wife really appreciated it. I got her a bunch of flowers and the things what men are supposed to do to make sure that they're compadres, they're happy with us, and we're trying to do the right thing. But anyhow, I'm going to check here real quick, check my messenger if I have any messages here. And let's see. Let me see here. I've got to make sure that I get this out to my friend here. I think he's having a hard time getting on, so I will make sure I send him a link here. That way we don't waste too much time. Everything gets a little more complicated, right, when you're trying to do something. Let's see. I'll copy that link, send it to him. Yeah, so he'll be on here in a second. I don't have his email, so he's going to email himself. So we're trying to get this all straightened out here. But technology, it's one of those things you have to deal with. That's kind of part of our way of life anymore. I saw an ad that popped up through Facebook about Greg Braden. Those of you who know Greg Braden is, he talks about that there really are no extraterrestrials per se. They are, but they're not like the ones that we think about. He's talking about how the extraterrestrials that we encounter are actually people, are us in the future. I think there was a movie about this too, if I'm not mistaken, but they're more like people who came to a crossroads where they had to make a decision. Are they going to live in the physical realm, or are they going to live in the technology that they create? So basically what happened, humanity picked technology, figuring that they would be able to live longer or whatever. They probably did, but they ended up losing the emotional aspect of themselves, how they could do better, how they can move themselves in the proper way. So anyways, it was just really fascinating to see that and think about that, how humanity could be in such a put themselves in such a put themselves in such a space where they no longer are no longer the existence they used to be. Of course, we all adapt, or we all have to evolve, but I just found it fascinating because it was like, wow, it's that easy. When we hand the keys to somebody else to drive for us, and that's kind of what happens, and that's kind of what went on. So my curiosity was like, I'm going to dig deeper into that. So what I'm going to do a little more research on that. I'm going to kind of look into that, because I find it fascinating that I have a sense that I believe that we are not this isn't like our first existence. This isn't like well, the way we are, technically in this world, we're more advanced, but I think advancements is it's just kind of like a figure of speech. Advancement is depending on who you're talking to, what you consider an advancement, right? So advancement in let's say in Atlantis was a completely different way of structure, moving energy. The Egyptian pyramids, in Mexico, Peru, wherever you're connecting with, all that energy has its own way of, being expressed and being absorbed and being used. Did they have computers? I don't know. Did they have computers? Did they have crystals? Did they talk through, different forms and different means? I believe that everybody on the earth was connected in some way, and there was some way for them to be who they are and do what they do in that moment. When I talk to my teachers, they talk about how the shamans would go from into a tree and up to another tree, and then and that's how they were. So, anyways, I'm just kind of like fascinated by all that stuff because let me see, moving, pushing something here. Didn't mean to do that. So, I find it fascinating what humanity has done and what they have accomplished in just what we've, explored as humans, what we've gone through. And so, quite frankly, it's just really how we navigate and how we move. And, when you look at the world today, we're advanced and yet we're also kind of like, not so advanced, right? We're kind of in the dark ages on things in the way we approach things, how we do things, but that's to be right. As we advance, we become smarter or more intelligent, whatever word you want to throw in there. Human beings just they want things quicker and faster. I know that. I know nobody really expects things to be at modem speed anymore. Dial up. That may work for one or two people in the whole whatever, but the majority of us, it's about speed and how fast we can get there, how fast we can move and navigate and get to the places we need to get. So I'm going to take a sec here. I'm going to pop in here to my messenger and see what's going on. I believe he should be able to he might, what's probably happening, I'm going to guess this, is that his computer, he hasn't, the Zoom hasn't hasn't been, it's updating probably. That happens sometimes when I'm getting ready to do a show. Sometimes the update, and then the update kind of slows everything down. So, it's an interesting fact, that technology, as it evolves, the workspaces that we have sometimes devolve. Like my computer is now slow compared to when I first got it. It was like it was the shizness, right? But not anymore. It's like really slow now. It's like the new generation is so much faster, so much. I think my phone is faster than my workspace and my laptop, But that's kind of where we've gone. That's kind of how it went. And so, we do our very best. And I'm just fascinated how quickly we've evolved since the advent of the Mayan calendar. The reset, that great reset. And that great reset wasn't about destruction. It was just about speed and how quickly and fast we would be communicating to one another and sharing information to each other, with each other, about everything. And fast, boom, boom, boom. It's just like that, and then here we are. But anyways, that's what happens. And so now we're also in this new era where, the way we expect things to be is a lot different. I know when I was growing up, we didn't have computers. We didn't have any of this technology. I mean, maybe somebody had it, but we didn't have it. It was just sheer, you really had to plan. You really had to connect with somebody and say, hey, we're going to do this. This is the way we're going to do it. I mean, you had to have a very solid foundation. I mean, we had landlines, yes, but it wasn't like we were always on our landlines. As kids, we didn't. It was just out the door, pick up a few friends, and then hopefully not get into too much trouble. You knew you were going to get in trouble. It didn't matter. And then you were on your bike or you were walking. Most of the time we were just walking, just like going down the street, just like doing the thing, like okay, here we go. What are we going to get ourselves into today, you know? And so that's kind of exciting for me to remember those, reminisce those days as well. But, you know, it was bound to change, right? It was bound to change as we evolve as humans. We change the way we structure. And but the thing is, now that we have all these computers and we're all plugged in, there's an aspect of it that has unplugged us from the world, unplugged us from ourselves, unplugged us in the sense of like we're not really cautious almost to some extent, you know, where we get on our phones and we just start going, and until somebody interrupts us, like, oh, okay, hey, what's up? I'm sorry, I was just looking at something. You know, my wife's notorious for that. She's like, let me finish this. I gotta finish this. Let me finish this up. Let me finish this up. I'm like, I'm trying to talk to you. But you know, that's kind of where we were going. That's kind of, you know, the telepathic, you know, we were always talking about how the telepathic mind of ours is developing. You know, we're reading into things now more than we used to. We're doing things, you know, through our phones. We talk more to people through these little digits, you know, these little numbers here that we do. And you know, it's kind of interesting. So he says he's almost in, so I'm not sure what that means, but I'm sure we'll figure it out when he gets there. But so, you know, it's funny, you know. Look, I'm here, and I'm here just monitoring myself. I'm online looking at myself. Look at that. That's me. That way I know that the feed doesn't collapse or die or whatever. I'll know that it's live. That's how I'm doing my monitor, my work, you know. But Zoom isn't like the first place I use. You know, I go directly to Facebook sometimes. But it's funny when I use Zoom to connect this to Facebook. It's more streamlined. It's like more accessible. Don't know why. It just is. That happens. But anyways, you know, that's the thing that we look for. But you know, I'm excited to be able to interview my friend today. Like I said in the beginning, I remember his early foundation, his early beginnings, and he credits a lot to the reason why he does the work is because I've kind of inspired him into that space, which is really cool. We'll dig more deeper into those things. We'll also dig in to see where he's at and how he's evolved and where he's planning to be and where he's planning to go, what he's been, what he's done. You know, it's beautiful to see the people that you've helped along the way create some amazing things. And I mean, it's not like they weren't doing the work, they just didn't realize they were doing the work, you know? It's kind of like taking action for the things you need to do. So when he gets on here, I mean, I'm pretty stoked about see where he's at. I know he's gone through some things like everybody. We've all gone through these different, you know, rotations and these different cycles of our energy in our belief systems and why we are where we are and why we're stuck and why we're not stuck and how we got unstuck. But I'm pretty excited about, you know, this chance to get to share with you guys somebody I care about. And then I've got a lot of new guests coming on and a lot of new guests who I'll be sharing with throughout the month and be able to do that like I used to do with Insights Radio with my sister. So we'll be able to share more people in the holistic community. I'm going to start interviewing more people here in Columbus, like people here in Ohio, Central Ohio, and share with their passion about what they do, because I find it very important that the people who are local sometimes don't get to express or share the things they want to share. So I'm pretty excited about that. So hopefully you'll be able to tune into those shows because those will be fun, and I'll let you know ahead of time and how that's going to work and how it's going to play. If you want to be on my show, if you want to be interviewed, if you have a book or you have something you want to share about your practice or anything, let me know. Let me know and I'll get you on here. We'll hit it on the calendar. We'll schedule it. Excuse me. And we'll make sure that you are heard. You know, my sister and I for years did so many shows over the years. So let me check real quick here. Quick, a little buzz here. Okay. I don't see him, but I'm going to go with it. He's going to pop in here. I don't see him in my feed. But yeah, we did these shows. We did thousands of shows. Rosa and I, my sister, who's no longer with us, she transitioned, her way out of this world, and she and I created a lot of amazing, um, material, a lot of amazing uh, interviews, and a lot of one-on-ones just talking together. The interesting thing is the Blog Talk Radio no longer exists. Like, it's gone now. It's where we kind of started. And it was just all radio. It wasn't video. It was just voice and sound checks, and callers would call in, and that was pretty much it. But now it's just like, it's just, I mean, you can pick your poison, pick what you want, how you want to communicate. That's kind of how it works now. But there was something cool about not having a face and just hearing a voice. And I was always kind of excited and liked that. But the range was different. Like, it was hearing people and talking to people, it was a lot different. The communication was a lot different. So, but we interviewed like quite a bit of people. When I go back, and if you go on Sprecher, you'll see the whole catalog from Within Sights Radio that we used to do. I'm not sure if we captured all of them because we did the RRS or the RSS feed, and we tried to capture all the videos, all the shows that we could, and download them to Sprecher. Did we get them all? I don't know, but there's some really good shows on there. There's a lot of good shows. We had let's see, we've interviewed shamans, we interviewed healers, all kinds of healers, all kinds of people who were just doing all kinds of amazing things. And then we also invited a lot of people who were local and internationally too. They're on there as well. I have authors. I got a lot of these books are from authors that I interviewed and they gave to me or my sister, and they're here in my collection. So I believe SadaNah Singh is here, and I'm going to bring him into the room. So I want to welcome him. I know he probably had a little struggle getting on here, but here we go. We'll bring him in. Take a second. All right, I don't see him, but I believe that he's here. Are you here? I can't see you. Okay. No, he's joining, so he's coming on. He'll be on here in a second. You're just getting learned to use all these technologies. Sometimes it can kind of slow you down a little bit. But I believe he's on. Or maybe he's not. I don't know. He'll pop up on the screen when he pops up on the screen. And he popped up on the screen. And hopefully we can get a video of him. That'd be great. SadaNah, can you hear me? Oh, he's connecting audio. I can't hear you yet, but okay. But this is what we do. There he is. Let's see if we can hear him now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, finally got logged in.
Yeah. Let me turn my volume down a little bit here. How you doing?
Pretty well. How you doing?
Good. Did you have a hard time getting on here, or?
Yeah, my laptop is just old and took several tries, but
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
I need to get a new laptop.
Yeah, me too. I just had that conversation with myself here on the show about having to get a new laptop and how technology has just done its own thing, goes its own way, and does this. The advancement of just humanity alone, and then just advancement of technology, how fast it's moved.
Yeah, I remember when you just you owned your computer, you owned all the software on it.
Yeah.
It just worked as well as it was going to work, and it wasn't like Zoom continuously updating their servers every week and changing everything.
Right.
It is a miracle that we're able to communicate this way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm grateful for it, although there's
Yeah,
obstacles
there's
sometimes.
some days you got to jump through some hoops that you weren't expecting. I know
Yeah.
I've done that. But I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're here on the show with me today. I know we've been kind of trying to connect and get this going. We've had a couple bumps, but we're here now, and this is the right time. This is the place we're supposed to be. So I want to introduce everybody to you, SadaNah Singh. This is a friend of mine. I know him from a different name, and I know from a different time. And we go way back. We go back some time. And I remember when you were just starting your, well, I don't know if you were starting your path. You were kind of exploring your path, let's put it that way, and certain things that you wanted to do and you weren't quite sure. But I just told you just got to do it.
I think when we first met was the day of my first sweat lodge that you led in 2009, I want to
Yeah, it's
say.
been a while. Yeah, it's been a while.
It was an awesome synchronicity because Dawn of the New Era,
Hmm.
had introduced me to a book I was reading. It was called Mother Earth Spirituality by Eagleman Ed
Hmm.
Ga. And he talked about the main Lakota rites and ceremonies, and it was Sweat Lodge, Vision Quest,
Hmm.
Sun Dance, and Spirit Calling. And so I was reading all this stuff about Sweat Lodge ceremony and like, wow, that sounds so amazing. You know, I always had a real aversion to heat. Like I'm always like hot-blooded and saunas or heat like
Hmm.
that. I just couldn't stand it. But I knew, I had to face that fear. I had to dive into it, do the baptism by fire, get over that resistance, and do, the purification. That's what inipi means, right?
NEPA.
Sweating it
Hmm.
out. And so I was reading all this stuff like, oh, I really want to do a sweat lodge. And I told Dawn, and she said, the first sweat lodge of the year, Iggy is leading it on New Year's Day. It's
Yeah.
like 2009, I believe. And I was like, wow, how convenient. Like I was just reading this. Turns out there's one coming right up.
Yeah.
Found out about, and you led a beautiful ceremony for
Thank
us, and
you.
I just loved it. I remember coming out of the sweat lodge and it was snowing. It
Hmm.
was New Year's Day. I started doing sun salutations on the lawn and my body was steaming and I felt so purified, and there was several magical occurrences during that ceremony. There was lightning inside the sweat lodge.
Hmm.
That's the only time I've seen that. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've.
No, it happens. All kinds of stuff happens in sweat lodge. There's magic that happens in there. For everybody, it's a different thing. You know,
Yeah, it's
it's a
like a
different
little
experience.
microcosm of
Yeah.
Mother Earth. So there's clouds and there was a lightning, just a flash of
Yeah.
light, and everyone was like, "Wow!" And
Yep.
then we saw a little glowing thing on the ground. We picked it up. It was a glowworm that
Yeah.
had come out of the earth inside the sweat lodge.
Yeah.
Also
Weird.
something I've never seen before.
Yeah.
But we were like, "Wow, so blessed. The spirit is with us." So,
You know what's cool about that is, in any type of ceremony you're in, there's always something magical happens. And in that moment, that was what was supposed to be for us to exhort and to acknowledge and to witness and to create, metaphors in our mind and stories about what those mean. So that's kind of what that was. But that was really pretty cool though, when you think about it. I totally forgot about that until you just mentioned that. Now I remember. It's like, yeah, you do so many sweats, that you have so many encounters, but they are beautiful though.
yeah, and then I,
Beautiful.
I got to go like pretty much a monthly basis with you for that couple of years, I
Yeah.
think. And
Yeah,
now
we have one coming up on Sunday.
on Sunday
Yeah, in Delaware. Hmm.
in Delaware. Yeah, and then at this point I've been to Sweat Lodge ceremony like on a mountaintop in Kentucky and in like California, Indiana, Flint Ridge,
Yeah.
Starwood Festival all around. But those are my very first ones, so they're very
Yeah, yeah, that's
special
pretty
to me.
cool. Yeah, I remember all our conversations in the restaurant too when you would really be there. I remember the
Yeah.
napkin reading I gave you and all this different stuff. Yeah, it's pretty powerful. But since a lot of our listeners probably don't know maybe who you are, some of them who tune in probably do, give us a little background about yourself. Share with us who you are the evolution of you, how you got to where you are in this present moment. I think it'd be kind
Yeah,
of cool to listen to a little story about
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I've been really blessed and fortunate to have met the people I've met, done the trainings I've done. I've always been a really mystical person since I was a kid. So I started, learning about Mother Earth based religion, spirituality, whatever you want to call it. They're both the
Mhm.
same to me, like Wicca and um, pagan like meditations, things back when I was like 11, 12. I have 4 planets in Sagittarius, so I'm naturally a really mystical, philosophical, magical type person. So I got into, doing that realm of, that was when I first started learning meditation, which was referred to as like self-hypnosis, and doing candle flame gazing and
Mhm.
manipulation meditation. And then, going through high school, I mean, I was always a really, really emotional person. Growing up, I would cry, scream at people all day, every day,
Mhm.
and just felt like a lot of anger and frustration and sadness all the time. I probably would have been put on a spectrum by today's standards, but at the time they just said that I feel things very strongly. That's what the psychologist said.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until, I would be doing art, I would go in the woods when I was with nature, and when I was drawing and sculpting, I felt at peace. But being in social situations, I had a lot of social anxiety at school, and things was just really stressful. And then, I would play music and play guitar, but it really, then wasn't until I started working with plant medicines that I started getting over my social anxiety a little bit. But and this is something I really like to share with people, is really important to all the people who consider themselves introverts and say like, I'm not flexible, I can't do yoga, I can't speak in front of people, I can't, just limitation,
Mhm.
self-limitation. Just say, I started working with these plant medicines, but of course we don't want to be reliant on things like that. So I got into yoga in college, and then I started learning breathing, how to calm myself, how to work with my mind instead of, all these bombardments of emotions and thoughts and fears that a lot of people deal with every day. I learned meditation, both through the books on paganism and things I was reading
Right.
as a child, into yoga classes, and shortly after that, working with you and other shamans and sweat lodge ceremonies
Mhm.
and that whole realm of workshops, cacao ceremonies, and things with
Mhm.
Aster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so then that led me to my first Kundalini Yoga teacher training. I took 4 years of like pretty intensive yoga courses in college. So uh, I feel like a lot of people's experience of yoga is like taking a class here and there, and they don't see a lot of progress because it's so sparse and
Right.
not like immersive. But I was taking college courses, so I had to read the books, I had to do the journals,
Sure.
be really immersed in all aspects of yoga, which is every branch of yoga. I got my introduction to Kundalini meditation, um, other types of asanas and meditation practices, and reading like Power of Now, John Kabat-Zinn, all the philosophy behind it.
Sure.
So that got me a good foundation, and I had another interesting synchronicity that led me along my path, which was when I was working at OSU. I was an art and technology major, so I was doing a lot of multimedia, 3D animation, making holograms and robots and fun stuff like that.
That's
But
cool.
I was working in the computer lab helping this older lady with a philosophy video, like recording in the recording studio and things. And she's like, I'm gonna introduce you to Sat Katarkar. She's a 80-year-old woman. She came in, she was a Caucasian woman with a turban on.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people will probably see this and like, oh, why is he appropriating Indian culture? And because we're Kundalini teachers. She was the first
Mhm.
Kundalini teacher I ever met, and she read my numerology from my birthday,
Okay.
December 4th, 1985. She crunched the numbers and she said, "Wow, you have these life path numbers, these power numbers, like you're going to be a great teacher one day." And I was like in college, I was barely starting to do a couple of years of yoga classes, and I was like, me teach, like I was the least flexible person in gym class and my early yoga classes, and just going into a child's pose, which you're like kneeling with your head down. It's a relaxation posture,
Yeah.
but I'd be like struggling and sweating, and now like I can fall asleep in that posture because my flexibility opened up, and it was 5 years after Sad Katarkar gave me that reading that I ended up doing my first teacher training.
Nice.
There's been so many synchronicities I could go on about, like,
Yeah, I mean, I
yeah,
can hear that. That's
yeah,
amazing. So, as we progress through this time, everybody's searching out for new things and new ideas, but there really are no new ideas, right? It's just old stuff that's just been forgotten, basically. So I know I've seen the changes in you, and I've seen the different ways that you were moving through your energy. I've come to you to do drum circles, and when you call me out to come and help you with that. And I also you helped me out with a project I was doing about getting fit. You remember that? When
yeah.
I came down to, it's good to be here. I had my good to be here t-shirt, and we were doing
I,
yoga
I
poses.
I still have the pictures that come
Yeah.
up on my screensaver doing yoga with you in my studio, which was another like giant dream come true thing, to have my own yoga studio and have people like you and Nick like come in, big groups of people coming, doing drum circles, ecstatic dance, cacao ceremony. Did a lot of sound healing concerts there and doing charity work. We do fundraisers for various organizations to help people
Hmm.
through yoga nidra, like relaxation. And that was actually where my greatest achievement that I'm the most proud of was hosting which as far as I know was the first, maybe only, um, 200-hour Kundalini yoga teacher certification in Columbus at my own studio, and
Okay.
kind of helping to birth the new generation of teachers.
Yeah. Yeah. So, on that note, how do you see the new teachers coming up? I mean, there's a lot of different. It's a very different time, I think. I personally feel as I watch new people coming into the fold. I told my friend Jeremy, I don't know if you know Jeremy Felder, one of my buddies, but
Yeah,
we had this conversation. I said, there's Star Wars, and you had to have an apprentice, and you had to learn things a certain way, and all of a sudden they made this other version of Jedi that they just have it. They're
yeah,
a little bit out of control, but they just have it. They really don't need a teacher, but they do need a teacher, but they don't need a teacher. I mean, what do you think about that?
yeah. I have a lot of thoughts about that because it's really controversial, and you have the old school traditions of yoga where back way back in the day, you had to basically be a servant, be a disciple, like to a Jedi master,
Hmm.
to a yoga master, in order to even receive a mantra or even to be
Hmm.
taught anything. You had to serve them and take care of everything for them. A lot of shamans still work this way, in
Yep.
South America. You don't just go and receive a medicine ceremony. You're
Yep.
like feeding their chickens, like they have to make sure you have the will necessary and the presence of mind before they give you a powerful experience.
Sure.
So I am kind of more, I'm not a really conservative, like old-fashioned kind of person, but I do feel like people need to be committed and disciplined to a tradition in order to be the best teacher they can be. You have to be the best
Hmm.
student before you can be the best teacher.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are kind of self-taught these days. People have amazing gifts from
Sure.
birth, and they may learn something and then want to teach it. And I'm not opposed to that, but in order to really transform yourself, in order to really say, become a teacher, for example, you really need to learn from highly established, highly experienced people. And the best trainings come from masters. A lot of people, I think, don't even have a conception of what a master is nowadays. You know, a lot of the masters end up getting involved in scandals, and
Hmm.
it's hard to tell nowadays. Um, so like my Kundalini yoga tradition is really strict in this, you know, even to teach a level one training, you have to go through at least like 15, 20 years. You have to do your level one, 200 hour, your six, level two, and then
Yeah,
years and years of mentorship before you're considered qualified to, you know, really foster the next generation of teachers. There's a lot of like strict ethical codes and things on that.
sure,
Yeah, and I see a lot of people nowadays like on the one hand, if you know anything, you should share it and teach because people need it. You know, even I started leading meditations when it was the only meditation I knew.
sure,
And people would ask me at festivals to lead these things, and I would say, all right, you know, let's do it. I know a bit and I'm going to teach it. Um, but it's sort of like that's the spectrum of experiences. If you want to, you know, do really intensive training, teach people to become teachers, really teach people to become masters eventually, then you have to have a lot of training from, you know, authentic masters, which are
sure.
rare.
So do you find that like sometimes people just want to learn just a little bit stuff and just kind of run with it versus just like being committed into that process?
Yeah, and you know, it's always good to learn as much as you can and to share it. Um, but there's also kind of like a low attention span, a low amount of commitment that people are willing to do these days. And granted, you know, we're busy, we have a lot of societal pressures and financial pressures, so there's a lot of
Mhm.
obstacles. I think it's a lot harder to do now than it was, you know, 20 years ago when I started
Yeah.
training. So in order, it's like it's karma. It's like the
Yeah,
more you give, the more you get. The more committed and more you put
right.
into it, the more you get out, basically.
Yeah, it's just like my practice when I'm teaching shamanism. It's like there's a like you said, there's a level of commitment to learn because it's not like that's why I'm always asking people, are you sure you want to learn this? Because it's a path. It's not just like something that you're gonna pick up in a weekend certificate or whatever. Because I'm not a big person, me personally, nothing against it, just I'm not a big certificate type person. Like I don't like write these certificates, but I do make them do things that become their certificates,
Mm,
versus like drawings and things. I'll convert it and I'll sign it. But it's more of the lifestyle. It's the way of life. It's walking that path. Following you follow the smoke to this place. You're here now, and now you're like taking the steps. And a lot of the fine thing is trusting. I find
yeah.
people who really want to learn will trust, and the people who are really not sure, they'll always ask you like, well, why do I have to do that? Why do I
Yeah.
need to? Well, we got to work on your ego parts.
Yeah, that's a big part. Yeah. Kind of like people don't see things as they are, they see things as they are, you
Right.
know? So they might not even recognize when they're talking to somebody with that can teach them something because they get caught in their own ego. That's a huge part of it that people are unwilling to learn. Um, you know, especially when they get into their adult years, say they become parents, they stop learning, they stop receiving education, and then
Mhm.
they think that they should just be teaching and not learning anymore.
Right.
There's this expression, always a student, never a master,
That's right.
where even the greatest masters, they still would have to do, you know, this waking up before sunrise, 2.5 hours of their practice, and they still have their teachers, you know.
Yes.
That's being humble, yeah,
Yeah.
humbling the ego.
Yeah. That's a very good point. I love that because you never stop learning.
Mm.
There's always a new experience, something coming out, or you're gonna meet somebody who's sees things differently and shares with you.
Yeah.
Everybody's our teachers, right? We
Yeah.
say
Oh,
that.
yeah.
So,
Whether they're giving us a good example to follow or a
right.
good example to not follow,
Exactly. Exactly.
everyone's a teacher.
So
And
your path has taken you on many directions, and now I see you. Now you wear your turban, you have your beads, your mala beads here. Tell me a little bit how you got to this point, because I have a lot of people don't know how I met you before, so they don't have that connection with the bit. They know you probably in this present moment how you are, but I'm
yeah.
curious as to know a little bit.
So back then in like 2008 and 9, I had only gone through a couple years of yoga classes and my own like self-teaching of paganism and shamanism. And then, as I went through the next, let's see, 5 years, I was training a lot with Aster, with yoga trainings, yoga courses, teacher trainings, and I I learned a lot about self-transformation, um, and lifestyle, like you said, like
Hmm.
lifestyle is one of the most important things. So not just this lackadaisical approach that people take of like doing a class or a workshop when they feel like it, but being committed meant daily practice. It meant, if I had my classes twice a week, I was doing those no matter what. I just kept adding to that and strengthening myself more and more, being invited to teach more and more. And teaching is actually one of the best ways to learn. So, when you're in front of people, you have to put all your ego, all your personal problems aside
Yeah.
because, I'm not going to go up in front of class, hey guys, let's do some yoga, except I'm sad about this thing, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, it's like, forget it and focus on your projection, trying to uplift people, trying to get them
Hmm.
energize, get them into their state of well-being. So what we wear, our lifestyle, what we eat, everything from sleeping, waking up, cleansing, taking care
Hmm.
of the body, mind, which are one, all of that leads to these various techniques, and since I follow a tradition rather than like the more new age, like just do whatever you want type of approach,
Okay.
we follow a ethics of modesty and yogic technology, which is like wearing a head covering when we're teaching. So I'm not like a fully baptized Sikh to where I would wear it all the time. I'm a pantheist, so that's
Okay.
I embrace all these different cultures and learn from all of them. But when I'm teaching, when I'm projecting from this teacher sense of self, then some people just wear a bandana, but I wear the more traditional turban head wrap,
Hmm.
which also protects you. And part of the Sikh and Kundalini tradition is growing your hair out. So my hair goes from here like down past my waist, and that builds your energy as like an antenna part of your nervous system.
That's
And then
cool.
you tie it up. For women, it's further back on a lunar point, and for men, it's on a solar point. So there's specific
Okay.
meridian points on the scalp that then you wrap, and it's like concentrating that energy, keeping your thoughts contained within yourself, so you're
Hmm.
not, influenced by other things. And there's the modesty aspect.
Sure.
We wear all white when we teach, and wear, I have sheepskins and gongs, and I have a lot of my spiritual implements around me too.
Yeah. That's cool. I like that. I'm looking at your studio here. So you have a studio now, right? Again, or no?
This is just my living room
Oh, okay, cool.
slash
Yeah.
teaching space slash
So
office.
you don't have a place where you're actually doing work anymore, or no?
No, I'm teaching for yoga well-being,
Okay.
um, which is out of Columbus, and kind of just like on the road now to where I teach at festivals and conventions. Like we have the Gift of Light Expo in Cincinnati this coming weekend,
Okay.
and I've been talking to people earlier this morning about teaching at Pyro Festival in Michigan. So I work at a botanical tea house, a kava bar, which is
Okay.
a non-alcoholic herbal. Um, it's, a place for sharing these herbal medicines, but I also teach yoga, sound healing, recently ecstatic dance, and things like that
That's
there. So,
awesome. That's
yeah,
good to
the
know.
world is my studio.
I see your gong there.
Yeah.
You want to play something for us?
My first gong uh, I got when I was graduating my first teacher training in 2009. Wait, that was, I should say 2014 was my
Mm-hmm.
first Kundalini teacher training. And here, I'll put on the musician's mode so you can hear the whole sound.
Yeah, that's nice. Nice.
Just surrounded by sound healing instruments here all the
Yeah.
time that I like to play during my classes.
Yeah. I like your drum, man. That's for sure.
Singing bowls. Yeah, this is one of the gongs that is specifically recommended in Kundalini for meditation, and it's really powerful on its own. Um, you can think of it like how people use white noise when they go to sleep because
Sure.
it clears the mind, and it clears out other sounds to where your mind can't focus on one thing and just kind of induces a meditative space.
Yeah.
The symphonic, Pisces symphonic gong.
Cool. You should probably take it in music mode so it doesn't feel funny. There we go.
Yeah.
I'm just hearing myself say. I remember one time, I don't know if you remember this, when we went to Ash Cave, you took one of your bowls
Yeah,
in the wintertime, remember that?
it was the same heart chakra green crystal singing bowl,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was about 25 degrees
Yeah, it was cold.
below zero. So I was doing one of those, and it
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
shattered. But by the grace of the universe and the makers of the bowls out of Tibet, they sent me a replacement.
That's all. Oh, they did. Oh, that's great. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it took
It's
about
an
6
update
months.
from years ago.
Yeah, we got full circle now.
Yeah, it has closure.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So what's new? What kind of projects are you into now? I mean, what's one of the big ones you're doing? I'm kind of curious because you're not in Columbus anymore, right?
Right. I've been up in Cleveland for the past few years, and so I could be closer to family up here. Um, but the Sacred Vortex Kombuchery and Tea House, where I work, there's a lot of beautiful growth in the community there, and I started doing sound healings there about a year ago. And recently, people had been requesting ecstatic dance, which we used to
Oh,
do at
okay,
my
cool.
studio too.
Hmm.
Do cacao ceremony, get heart opening, get this energy flowing, and we would do some movement that leads into the ecstatic dance. And yeah, just last month, I made a uh, ecstatic dance mix.
Nice.
I'm not like a full-fledged DJ yet, but I, usually I'm playing more organic instruments. Like I've played in a few bands with guitar and theremin and
Yeah, yeah.
sound healing stuff. But I do also love the electronic fusion of indigenous instrumentation. So it's Indian music with like trap, dubstep beats,
Hmm.
Native American and indigenous from all around the world. So I made a like an hour-long mix, and it's heavy bass and this beautiful flutes and mantras and things over it, and we're drumming. So that's a lot of fun. I'm excited to be getting into this frontier, and doing these fusion events where, we're because I sometimes I think people have this idea that spirituality, yoga, or meditation is just all about relaxing.
Okay.
And this is where I feel I need to kind of open people's eyes that there's a yin and a yang. So every week I teach a yin class, which is just relaxing, like we don't even stand up.
Hmm.
You don't even pull, you just relax in every posture and do sound healing and poetry and meditate. And then every week I teach a Kundalini class. And every Kundalini class should make you sweat at some point.
Yeah.
But it's not like something that is inaccessible. It's not like you have to be fit or flexible or have any experience to do it. It's just that we do these, simple dynamic movements that raise up your energy, and you're getting some cardiovascular, which like our hearts need exercise, our lungs need exercise, and
Sure.
if people are just relaxing all the time, they're not going to get that. They're not going to get their full
That's a good
energetic.
point.
Yeah. So I'm trying to do these kind of events where we raise our energy, and we dance and sing. I try to get people to open their throat chakras. And then we also have the relaxation and the sound healing. Going to be doing things like that at Starwood Festival, which is like my favorite festival now, at Wisteria in Southern Ohio. So I'll teach like several classes there, and partner yoga, acro yoga, which is really fun too.
Acro yoga, huh?
Yeah. So I'm kind of
The visual in my
like,
head's, I'm trying to make it here.
so you have the base, the person lying down, and the flyer up here,
Oh, okay.
and then you're flipping them around, and they're,
I
you
gotcha.
doing it's a beautiful practice. That's good exercise, good bonding between people. I love to lead partner meditations, so I'm always, getting involved in more musical projects, more yoga projects
Hmm.
and festivals, and um, I I have my kombuchas and cacao drinks that I make and jewelry that I make. So
Yeah, because you
I'm
sell that stuff too, and then when you go to your festivals, do you sell them, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
expos.
So I'll have my booth, and I'll be teaching people about, superfoods like cacao. And then, for the people who are more physically inclined, say like exercise wise, we'll
Hmm.
have the yogic practices. So basically, I'm trying to support people through all these different means, through visual arts, movement arts, musical arts, herbal nutrition and medicines, and just
Yeah.
everything that I get my hands on.
Yeah, there you go. You got to be able to do it. So you're a multi-dimensional, well, you're being, of course, but there really is no name for what you do. Then it's just kind of like me, right? A lot of
Yeah,
us in this community, we just can't really label us.
yeah.
You can't just say, well, he's this. No, he does
Pe-
that, and he's part of this
People
medicine. Yeah,
Yeah, people see my jewelry booth, and they're like, "Oh, you make jewelry," or they're like, "Oh, you make drinks," and then like, yeah, and then they find out that I'm a yoga teacher
sure.
for the past, 20 years, like, and that, we're doing partner yoga and Kundalini, and then I might lead them in a hape ceremony and be teaching them the shamanic medicine ways, because there's, people who uh, are I don't want to say like afraid. They have some resistance to, they're daunted by moving their body in a certain way. And like I said, I know because I've been through all that. I've been through
Right.
being inflexible, having social anxiety, being afraid of all this stuff. And I experienced the transformation, the growth, the healing, and building all of these skills and abilities, like opening my
Mhm.
throat chakra. I was the most shy kid, just terrified to even speak in front of small groups of people. My heart would be pounding out of my chest. And I I would actually credit psychedelic medicines also to this shedding of ego, to where I could open up. It's basically transmuting the fear into like a thrill and excitement, and
Okay.
building the skills, like teaching workshops, teaching multimedia video editing workshops at work, and then teaching yoga to open all of that up and turn fear into excitement, and like opening those doors is what I try to encourage people. And like, if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, sure. Is there like a certain modality that you really truly like? Not necessarily over the other, but just one that just really that's just like that's your thing.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's hard to say because like I teach. I really like yoga has been one of my biggest things in my life, and I teach that. But then for people that show up at a festival that are like just getting into spirituality, and they're like, oh, I can't do yoga. I don't know how to do that. I'm not flexible. They think it's whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, well, sit with me in ceremony, and we'll do hape ceremony. We'll do other medicine
Mhm.
ceremonies, and I kind of, you know, guiding them to opening up, like shedding the fears, and then they one day they're like, oh, those people look really beautiful, and they're looking so bright and shiny and
Mhm.
happy during their yoga. They're like, oh, I might try that a little bit, and they come to my sound healing to relax, and I'm like, well, we're gonna stretch a little bit because that's how you can relax the best.
There you go.
So everything that is needed in the human life is like getting good sleep, being able to wake up, being able to energize as well as relax, being able to work with your mind, with the forces of nature around you. Um, I just kind of, take it's sort of like a Taoist approach, like
Yeah, yeah.
taking whichever approach is uh, called for in that particular situation that I'm in.
Mhm.
So I'm not trying to like fight the universe and like push a certain thing. I go where I'm called and help people the best I can in their own way.
That's important. I like that message. That's pretty powerful. Because I mean, the universe kind of leads us and directs us, or directs people to us, one another.
Yeah.
So it's like there's all these different worlds that we're all involved with. There's the religious aspect of the world, and then there's like this, atheist belief system of the world, and then there's these people who are searching in the world, and then there's people who give back to the world. Everybody's giving something,
Yeah.
but I find it fascinating. In the times we're going. So, what do you see different from when you started to where you're at now in the work you're doing?
Yeah, especially through COVID, that
Mm-hmm.
was when I shut down my studio, and that was when there was a big shift. Like, there was a much more thriving Kundalini Yoga
Mm-hmm.
community, and then things got completely shut down, and we've just kind of been regrowing slowly after that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so festivals got really big, and this is, not just for people to dance to music, but to join in community. We do shamanic ceremonies and workshops and yoga,
Yeah.
and then all of that got shut down. And even in 2020, I made it to two festivals, two like small festivals, and was
Mm-hmm.
yoga as best I could and sharing ceremony. So now, I feel like there's some uh, more fear or blocks in people that uh, they're hesitant to get into things, or they can't feel like they don't have the time or money to do it. But one of my biggest messages is that your health is your greatest wealth, because without that, you have nothing without that
Yeah, that's
benefit.
I resonate with.
So it's like, it might take a little bit of time and resources to put into it. It takes commitment, but
Yeah.
I would relate the parable of the man with the dull axe. You know this
Okay.
one?
Yeah,
So
I go ahead and tell our listeners
yeah,
the
he's
story.
he's chopping wood with a dull axe, and he's sweating and struggling and taking forever to cut through a single piece of wood. His
Hmm.
neighbor looks over the fence and says, it looks like you got a dull axe there. Like, why don't you sharpen it? Take a minute to sharpen your axe. Then you can chop through. The neighbor sharpens his axe and gets through all of his wood. And then the guy's struggling and chopping, and he says, I don't have time to sharpen my axe. I've got all this wood to chop. It's taken forever. I'm so stressed. Woe is
Yeah,
me. And
right.
that's the situation people are in metaphorically to, working on themselves, working on their minds and their higher being when they say, I don't have time, I don't have the money to sharpen my axe. It's like if you take that time to, even if it's just ideally it's every day, even but that's what I always say, even if it's 5 minutes, you can do a 5 minute yoga practice, meditation practice in the morning every day. And I've seen, this was always hyped up by all my Kundalini teachers when we call it a 40-day sadhana. When you
Okay.
do commit to, it could be 7 minutes, it could be 11 minutes, like as short or as long as you have to commit to it. But when you set yourself, you set your mental space really as soon as you wake up, even when you're still in bed. You wake up instead of saying, "Oh man, I gotta do this, I gotta go to work," and like immediately going into victim
Right,
mentality.
right.
You say, I'm bountiful, I'm blissful, I'm beautiful, I'm strong, and healthy. It could be a 5 minute practice, just sit on your mat. Even, I tell people how to do like neck rolls or cat
Hmm.
cow, a little bit of breathing, a little bit of meditation, but you have to set the timer and you have to put it on
Hmm.
your calendar because, like I said, it's not this lackadaisical, like when I feel like it approach, which leads to very slow growth. It's the commitment and saying, if you miss a day, you have to start over to try to
Oh,
get
okay.
to your 40 days.
Reset yourself, huh?
Yeah, and that's supported by research too, that it takes at least 30 days to make or break a habit for
Sure.
neurons to come together to create a more transformative and positive change.
That's good. I kind of got put myself on a challenge I didn't even know I was going to do. I bought one of those. I'm not going to name the company, but the mushroom coffee.
Yeah.
The one you see all over the place, and just was curious. And I'm like, I'm going to see what happens. It has all these benefits, and we'll see how it benefits me. But I kind of rolled myself into that. I'm on the fourth day now.
Well, those are really powerful. I love to have like I've done the mushroom coffees a bunch of times before. I've gone through, dozens of the little mushroom coffees, and now I just use like a 10 mushroom protein powder.
Okay.
But the lion's mane, reishi, chaga,
Yeah.
turkey tail, which is a common like local mushroom,
Hmm.
so many gut healing, like antibiotic, antiviral, and adaptogenic properties that
Yeah.
it will greatly transform you. And then I've tested this too, where I'll run out and I won't take any for like 2, 3 weeks, and I see like the gut issues, the poor sleep and stuff coming back, and then I get some more and it's all gone again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
it's,
mean, it makes sense, right? It's like if you put poor fuel in your car, you're going to have a poor performance. So it'll still move and run, but it won't give you that kick that you need. And
yeah.
that's kind of where I was, because when I wasn't well, when I was fighting, through COVID and all that, and went in the hospital, my body just took a hit,
Hmm.
and my lungs took a really bad hit, and I was just been working on that, just trying to find that code and that key,
Yeah.
something that with work, and action will help me and benefit me. Because doctors are willing to put you on pharmaceutical medicine anytime. They're like, yeah, let's put you on metformin, let's put you on this, let's put you on that.
They give you
So,
antibiotics, but they don't know anything about probiotics.
right.
So
So they don't
they
really help
will,
build your flora. They don't help you resustain your system and bring you back to, that center place you need to be.
Yeah, that's why I've been brewing kombucha for 15 years, teaching people about that, teaching workshops on kombucha brewing at festivals.
Yeah.
And now I've been blessed to be able to work at a kombuchery where it used to be a beer brewery.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, the big like 700-gallon brewer tanks all behind the bar.
There must be a big SCOBY in there.
Yeah, like a 200-gallon like giant SCOBY, and it's got some yerba mate and
That's pretty
botanical
cool.
medicines.
I was gifted one SCOBY and started in one jar. Next jar, boom, I got all of a sudden I had all these jars. I was like, what am I gonna do with all this stuff? But
Yeah,
I had to like give them away and stuff because
yeah, yeah.
it gets into that space.
I got my first SCOBY from a lady on Craigslist that my buddy found and was like, "You got to get this so you can make your own." And she said her SCOBY was multiplying, and she thought if it got any bigger, it would become self-aware and try to take
Yeah,
over.
it felt like that.
Yeah.
Felt like that.
You give them away, share them with people. I had that SCOBY in a continuous brewing cycle for like a good 10, 15 years or so.
Oh wow.
And then I let it go for a few months, just dried out and died.
Yeah,
But luckily, where I work, I was able to get a new SCOBY and get a new batch going.
that's cool. Yeah, I might do it up again because I like to buy it sometimes.
Mhm.
I might hit up my friend and say, hey man, you got any SCOBYs left?
Yeah. I
Anyway, my
consider
friend
it.
Kelly.
In Star Wars, another Star Wars reference,
All right.
the midichlorians, they're
Yeah,
like
the midichlorians.
microscopic beings in your body, and the more you have, the more force and Jedi powers you have. And that's basically how the probiotics are,
Makes
is
sense.
these organisms, they have a life force like all organisms. They're contributing to your life force by breaking down your food, which produces your serotonin, 95% of your serotonin. It's like,
Hmm.
like you say, you go to a doctor, they'll give you antidepressants, antibiotics, but they won't give you probiotics or actually, you know, teach you how to have your body produce
Hmm.
your own serotonin, which is
Right.
not dopamine, not just like the thrill of
Hmm.
like looking at a game or a video, but it's life experience, like going through a training, like transforming yourself, even just like family accomplishments and bonding experiences. And then, if you have your gut flora breaking down your food and certain foods that produce more serotonin, then you're just getting all that natural joy chemicals flowing.
Exactly. I think a lot. I have noticed a lot of people are really searching for different outlets to heal themselves and take care of their body more than I used to see. Compared to what how people aren't connected in a certain way. But there's this big change I see. This big shift where people are really going. I really need to take care of my body, or I'm going to be in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
And the stuff that we take. I mean, half of them, you watch TV and at any time you watch some of these advertisements and they're like, "Oh, it will cause diarrhea. Your bladder might explode, and your eye might fall out of your head." I'm like going, "What the heck?" But you'll feel great though. You'll feel great. On
I
the other spectrum of it.
like when you asked about the transformation of, the communities, and I gave the example of like yoga communities getting a lot smaller and studios shutting down. But I would also give a positive example. I also have seen what you're talking about, that like when I first started going to festivals back in like 2005, there was no yoga, there were no workshops. It was just music and partying. And then at Rootwire in like 2010, there was one teepee that they spent 12 hours putting up that was filled with crystals and singing bowls. It was a sanctuary because, people are doing psychedelics and they're partying and they're in an unfamiliar environment
Hmm.
of wild people. And you need a sanctuary space to go to meditate, to collect yourself. And that turned into like one workshop from Aaron Cruz,
Yeah,
and
Aaron.
he's given his PowerPoint about ancient aliens and chakras. And so I raised my hand and I said, um, we're talking about how powerful the chakras are, but I know a meditation because he wasn't going to lead and anything, just talking about it. So
Hmm.
I said, and he was like, "Oh, come up here on stage and lead." That's why I said like I only knew the one chakra balancing, but I went up and led it for the whole festival.
Nice.
And then that, the next year there was like another dome dedicated to workshops and classes. And then it was like five teepees and domes and coordinated yoga classes on the schedule with the professional musicians. And so actually I have seen the growth of this, people learning they how to take care of themselves. They know it's like you don't just automatically feel good when you wake up, when you get into
Yeah.
your 30s, 40s, 50s, especially. Your energy goes down, hormones change. We have all these toxins and hormone disruptors in our environment. So then
Hmm.
we really need the superfoods, the probiotics, the practices, yogas, and things like that to even be functioning at our best at all.
Yeah, because I know doctors don't, not all doctors necessarily get, practitioner types, family doctors don't get dietary training
Yeah.
or, your health. Like if I go see my doctor and he's like, oh, you want to try this? I'm like, nope. I know exactly what I need to do, now that you've given me my blood work and I know what I need to improve on. So it's
Mm.
kind of funny.
I
I'm like,
was
what it is.
really fortunate that I was connected with a couple of naturopaths that were experts in
Hmm.
nutrition, dietary supplements, the things that actually affect a lot of people that doctors don't really check for or know about. Probiotics, gut flora, things like
Hmm.
mold, and just herbal supplements. I think the closer we can be to nature, because we are part of nature, the herbal foods and medicines, then the the easier we can assimilate them into our bodies, they generally will work better with our energy and have less side effects.
Hmm.
And those are things that are like, well, I haven't seen enough research on it. It's like, well, do you think the government and Monsanto is going to be paying for that research? Like, give
No,
me research, like,
it's, that's the thing in this world. We have to really fight for who we are and what we want to do. And unfortunately, not everybody fights for themselves, and they just put a lot of faith and trust in the system that's in front of them. And, I will say there are cases where people do well just because,
hmm,
but then there's a lot that don't.
yeah,
There's a lot that don't, and they just, I don't know. The system is, in my mind, is designed to move us out quicker than keep us in here.
yeah.
That's just my belief. I mean, I don't know
That's
if you
that's how they
everybody.
make their money.
Yeah,
The sick,
yeah.
healthy people don't go to the doctor, don't pay them.
No, you don't make money off healthy people, right? I used
I
to
was,
tell my little sister, I said, they have a cure for cancer. And she's like, oh, no, they don't. Like, she went on like, said, no, yeah, they do. They just, it doesn't make money. Like it doesn't,
mm,
it doesn't, it's not to their benefit to give it to you all the
yeah.
time. They'll throw you a bone here and there with things, but
And that's actually one of the most interesting things from my tradition is like in 1969 when Yogi Bhajan came over from India and he gave like his first lecture and he said, in the Aquarian age, when the Aquarian age comes, you'll have all the information in the world, all the communication with everyone at the touch of a
hmm,
button. He's like
yeah,
pointing to his wrist. And, in 1969, there was no Apple Watches, there was no internet. You had to go to the library, maybe be able to find a book. So he said, you'll be communicating with everyone, all this information at the touch of a button.
yeah,
What, that was like Star Trek. Like, what could he have possibly been talking about other than the fact that as the Aquarian age progressed, we got the internet, we got the Apple Watches, we got Google, and
yeah,
we have all that information and communication. So we have all these resources, and that's the silver lining, even though there's a lot of stress and conflict that comes along with
hmm,
it. The Aquarian age is about equality, an egalitarian society.
hmm,
So he was giving us these Kundalini meditations and kriyas and lifestyle
hmm,
so that we could handle this influx of energy and communication. Like when you have thousands of emails and tons of different influences and fake news, it's an abundance of information, but also there's it's not necessarily true
yeah,
information, like the fake news thing, like
sure,
you get
sure.
misinformation along with it, and then
Disinformation.
you need the
That's,
intuition to tell the
yeah,
difference.
absolutely. I totally get that. So we're getting close to the time here, but I wanted to see if you wanted to share anything with them and your message that you weren't able to share, leave with our listeners here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, where can we find you? Like, where can
Oh,
how
oh
can we
yeah.
connect with you?
Well, like philosophically, my main message is that we are one divine being. We're connected with each other, connected with the earth, and that we all have the power to uplift ourselves. So we don't need to rely on the pills, the system. We can break through those
Mm-hmm.
fears, those self-limitation, and that's what I try to do through all these different techniques to uplift people because we're all one. So when you help someone, it helps you, it helps them. We grow as a community. So that's what I'm doing at the Gift of Light Expo in Cincinnati next
Okay.
weekend, at Pyro Festival in Michigan, Starwood Festival in July. But yeah, you can follow my Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I put um, reminders, announcements for things like this. And my website is just my name, sadanamsingh.com. There's videos of sound healings, so you can take my classes. I'm doing Tuesday and Thursday evenings at 7:30, which is Yin, the super gentle one, and Kundalini, which is also accessible to anyone. And then Tuesday morning, Kundalini at 11, and I've been subbing a lot of classes. So I have a messenger group that's Kundalini Yogi community where
Okay.
I post lots of reminders and on Facebook. It's just always my
Beautiful.
name, SadaNah Sigh.
SadaNah Sigh. Well, I appreciate you coming on and being here with me and sharing your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, a little bit about your past, and just being a good friend, and connecting with you.
I appreciate you so much, as one of the earliest influences in teaching me shamanism, sweat
Hmm.
lodge ceremony, and drumming. And it's been awesome to see how you've grown and gotten into
Sure.
all these different, I've been working with your coloring book and I always see your videos and stuff. And yeah, we're growing in all these
Hmm.
different methodologies to help support people. And it's really a time of great need. So I think
Absolutely.
we all need to share as much as we can to support each other.
I believe that, as our teachers move on to their next existence, we're like the next teachers in the flow.
Yeah.
And then hopefully we teach enough people along the way to step into our path and take our space as we move into the next flow. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that's been my mission here lately, just to be able, like yourself, be able to share and just be that vessel, be that gift, be that hollow bone.
Yeah.
Let spirit work through me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My friend, my brother, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
You
And
appreciate
have you back on again soon.
it.
And anytime, just give me a buzz, give me a call. And folks, I hope you enjoyed this interview with SadaNah Sigh and all the message he gave and the wisdom he shared with us today. And you can find him on Facebook. He'll be in Cincinnati. Was the Gift of Light Expo? He'll be
That's
there.
the
So if
May
you want to meet him in
7th.
person, he'll be there in the flesh with his kombuchas and his sacred coffees and his bracelets and jewelry. So I'm pretty stoked and excited. I'm waiting for a book from you. I haven't seen one yet, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't say that you haven't started one yet. But I like to see something come together. That would be fun.
Definitely a goal of
I would
mine.
love that. All right, my friend. Take care. Have a beautiful day, and I'll
You
see you
as
soon.
well, bro.
Take care. I'm glad we finally figured out the technology, though.
Yeah,
All right.
the universe aligned.
That's right. Have a beautiful day.
You as well, brother.
Bye bye. So thank you everybody for tuning in today. Iggy Garcia Live and my friend SadaNah Sigh sharing with us, his message, his beautiful story about who he was and who he is and where he's going and how he's moving to that space and that energy. And reach out to him, look for him on Facebook, on Instagram, TikTok. He's a little bit everywhere. There's a lot we could have talked about, but sometimes, you talk about what you need to talk about, you get where you need to be. And with that, I want to say, Ho'oponopono, mataku yasin. It's good to be here. Oh, and just keep doing the magic. Just keep working on yourself. Reach out. Don't give up. But remember, you got to take the steps. You got to take the action in order to create that life and that place and that world that you want to see. And there are a lot of other people like that. A lot of other people out there who are doing the same thing. All right. Take care, my friends. Have a good rest of the day, and I will see you soon. Be well. Take care.